What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about like the energy game and how you can start to recognize the game and not have your energy stolen from you 24/7. And so it's important to start to monitor your state of mind, your state of being, especially when you're around people, because there's really kind of like two categories of people. There's energy vampire people that just drain your energy in the present moment continuously. It's like it's one time. It's one thing if it's like one time and they're like, oh, going through a difficult situation and they just dump their traumas on you and their mental shit on you and need some support. That's one thing. But it's another when it's like a habitual pattern and it's just like kind of the way they are. And how you can even be around those types of people without having your energy being siphoned and drained, being around people that hate you, being around haters that just like waiting to distort whatever you're saying so that you can say, hey, you look nice today. And there you go like, oh, what, as opposed to every other day where I look like shit? Then just want to start beefing with you for whatever reason. It's important to start monitoring your own state of mind, your own energy, like it's more valuable than money, because it can be a big red flag when you start to spiral into undesirable states. You can start noticing how all of these things that are being done to you feel draining, that feel like there's a constriction. You can label it however you want in yourself when you feel, because it's always happening. Yeah, I mean, this is something that's not like theory land. This is like something that you're dealing with in the here and now. You can have psychic energy vampiring, where it's just like different spells and narratives, like disempowering mindsets, fear-based mindsets, thoughts of separation and hysteria. All of these are examples that if you believe that those thoughts are real and believe what they're offering, well, that can result in like a drain of energy. It can start changing your state of mind. But, playing the game of life and really exploring what's all possible when you know that you can be, do, and have anything according to what the Bible says. And, I've put that shit to the test and I've seen that work, and really in doing this, my intention is to help empower other people so that they can create their own heaven on earth on some level. And just kind of keep building this momentum, raising a vibe or whatever. Ultimately, just not living in the states of fear and getting your energy drained like a slave, because that's corresponding to your old state of mind too. This slave programming from the Matrix, it was designed to capture and steal your energy through disempowering thoughts, through convincing you that you're powerless, and then giving your power over to some existential person, place, organization, whatever, a massive consciousness, basically outsourcing your will to the will of other people and not God, your creator. It's one thing when you see others that are kind of under a spell where they're just draining energy, becoming like a harvester of others' energy. You can feel these in like different situations in life, though. They're kind of more of a neutral. It's more about whether you're letting that become an unconscious pattern that you're losing your own control with, because you're just, no, I just need this next fix. I need this next energy drop or whatever. That's when it becomes more of an issue, because ultimately that's falling for the Matrix programming of needing some external thing, needing an extra person, place, event, circumstance to be a certain way for you to hold on to a state of mind. That's not real. I mean, you can hold on to any state of mind that you desire, and you can start telling yourself different narratives that are more empowering, that are more in alignment with truth anyway, than what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people that are under the sway of the slave-mindedness are constantly in need of energy, because they haven't connected with the source of energy, their creator within them. That's the unlimited supply is within you. It's just a process of remembering how to utilize it. A lot of the programming from the world it teaches you the exact opposite. It teaches you not to use it. It teaches you to look for someone outside of you for a source of energy. It's like, I need to listen to that person to feel inspired. I need to just like join that person's cult so I feel some sort of spiritual inspiration. It's that same kind of trickery. And it's not even really trickery, because on the surface, there is a season and there's a time where that has an effect positively, until there's an energy deficit where it's like you're giving more energy than you're receiving. But in a lot of that stuff, it's still more a you issue, because once you realize how there's this correspondence between your own state of mind and your perception of reality, and even more extreme, the situations that you find yourself in become more like synchronicity. More things feel connected. It feels more dreamlike on some level. You have a thought about a person, and next thing you know, like later on that day, you see them. And it's like, I thought you were out of town for weeks. What's going on? Or it's like there's somebody that you're trying to avoid because like you just don't want to be around their energy, for example. Their dramas and their fucking who knows what kind of shit show you can find yourself in with some people. But like even that, when you're like trying to like avoid somebody, it's like, fuck, I'm around them all the time now. It's like, oh, there's this guy at work that just is a total fucking bitch to be around. He just complains and is annoying, is always sick, and it's like has a tendency of getting me sick. I was working at this place, where it's like this guy, I almost just like was like, dude, do you have AIDS or something? It's like, why are you fucking so sickly? I mean, besides the fact I see you just munching like, oh, Mucinex and Dimetapp, and let's throw back some fucking Benadryl. And it's like, dude, all day long you're just pounding these different over-the-counter drugs. No wonder you're fucking sick all the time. You're probably overdosing on something or poisoning yourself. But the problem was, like, he always wanted to be this hero at work of like, yeah, I still managed to make it in and make my sales calls. It's like, fuck you, dude. It's like, get your life together, get your shit in order. But you can find yourself around people. I was like younger, and there's this dude who's really aggressive and like really clashed on like personality types. But and I wouldn't say I ever felt like threatened to be around this guy. But I just didn't like the energy of it, and like there's always this like, we're gonna get in a fight, it's like, because he'd get aggressive, and it's like it was a habitual line stepper at times, it's just like, and he wasn't a bitch either. I mean, he was kind of tough, and so it was like I didn't want to be around this person. But then next thing you know, it's like dude's over at my house all the time, fucking calling me, wanting to hang out, and it's just like, what? And this is before I kind of realized what was going on with how even people that you dread to be around can unconsciously kind of draw that to you too, because we're always doing this. That's one of the things that's really helpful to remind yourself in the present moment, is everything's being done to you. You are constantly reaping what you've sown in consciousness, good or not. If you're sitting around in fear, worst case scenarios, limiting beliefs, assumptions, thinking the worst about people, being scared that you're going to be attacked, feeling like a victim, well, all of those things play a factor in that kind of shit corresponding into the world that you're living in. There's many worlds going on simultaneously. Everybody's in their own little bubble of reality. There's shared things, there's shared commonalities, but everybody's unique, and everybody's perspective and take on reality is unique. And the sooner that you can accept that as like an inherent thing of like, water's wet, people are unique, people view reality different than me, and that's okay. It's a load off, but until you get to that point, people can start to becoming very draining. It's almost like when you're not consciously aware of what's going on within your own consciousness, well, all of the tales that you're telling yourself through your mental stories about people all day long have a way of becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's what you draw out of that person. And if you're not keeping track of your energy, Well, if you're in the slave mind that's been programmed to be a battery, basically be a psychic vampire, for the psychic vampires that are trying to manifest their own version of reality, one in which you are unconsciously creating it for them. Instead of doing that, you're taking the reins and you're starting to be more conscious in what you're thinking about, because the correspondence in the mirror of reality will start to reflect that in time. And the sooner that you let go of your ideas about time, the faster it will start to manifest like a big mirror. And the more that you're able to go, oh, this is happening to me, as part of a correspondence, it's perfectly happening, even though it's like, oh, that was a shitty situation. I fell and I hurt myself, and now, I feel this kind of way. It's like, I'm not saying that it's perfect that you hurt yourself, but, it's a result of a perfect, predictable process. It's like, it's inevitable that you would have done that based on your own mindset. And more importantly, your fears, consciously and unconsciously had a role in manifesting that, especially if you believe those offers of that. But that's all part of like the energy game, where you're starting to take more and more of your attention away from what's going on in the physical situations, and realizing that those are the effect, and start to move your attention more and so towards the cause, which is your relationship and your faith in God, and in the promises of God. It's like you're moving from a state of being cursed to being blessed, and you can't really embody being blessed if you're carrying a lot of the cursed mindset. It's just another kind of way to describe that, because part of our old slave mind gets so hung up on words and definitions, which are subjective, that it's almost, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but it's important to define it in your own self, because it's all going on within you. And so that teacher is within you. So it's like part of your coming to an understanding is having these kinds of definitions, like what's blessed mean, what's curse means. Well, the Bible defines itself on some level. The etymology is one way to kind of look at it, but ultimately ask, believe, and receive, that you'll get an answer about what that's supposed to mean, and then just drop it, let it go. It's like a done deal. And over sometimes a matter of minutes, sometimes instantaneously, you start to see movement in your space. Maybe a little sign, maybe something that follows that shift in mindset to confirm that you are being led down a path to knowledge, which a lot of times when you're communicating with like heavenly kinds of situations, you have to learn through the experience. It's like you can't. It's like how does it feel to play the guitar, Mike? It's like, well, I could tell you what it feels like to strum chords and play in front of people and stuff, but until you do it yourself, there's only so far you can understand something just without doing it, and so part of like the spiritual nature of things is that when you ask and you believe, and then you receive, you ask, and as you believe that you've received it, you immediately start being led down a series of psychological events that are demonstrating something to your consciousness. By the time you get to the end of it, your understanding will be fucking solid, because you didn't just read it in a book and like you're thinking about it. It's like you actually put it to the test and you applied it and you see how it works, and you see like, oh, I get what they mean by this word. It's like you're not getting caught up on like the legalism of shit. It's more like, oh, when Mike says, you just feel the beat a little bit, and what he means by that is what I'm doing now physically. And the same thing is true with like the energy game, where it's just like before you realize that there's beings out there that are looking to siphon your energy, be draining, and like in a lot of ways like hating and fearing, and it's a fucking distorted version of love, which can be an energy drain. But if you look at it from the right perspective, it can still be an energy surplus for you. So it's like the more powerful you are at not letting your energy be drained by external situations, and it's not even the situation, it's the mental narrative then that follows the situation. That's where the fucking energy harvesting is actually occurring, in the spiritual realms first, and then there's a correspondence then in the physical. By the time it's happened physically, you're already getting psychically drained. For example, you get in an argument with somebody physically for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Well, then the rest of that fucking energy harvesting happens afterwards in thought, when you're like attacking the other person, reliving it, fucking just saturating your mind with it. All this kind of shit is a fucking drain, because as you're attacking another, you're attacking yourself, because we're all connected, and you're like fucking fighting against your shadow, and in that process draining yourself of energy. Where it goes, it's hard to really know, other than it's not something that you just feel it being drained out of you. Does it go to creation? Does it go to some more needing type of thing? I don't know. Do you walk around a swamp and just let mosquitoes just suck you dry, suck all the blood out of you? It's like the same kind of feeling when you're dealing with a energy draining person, situation, whatever. So the goal, part of the goal in the present moment is to, one, be demonstrating more and more so like the fruits of the spirit, which is love, joy, peace. Those for now, I guess. There's a whole list of it. But like, you can catch the energy of just even that. It's like, okay, love, joy, peace. Okay, that's good. How do I demonstrate more of that in the here and now? Well, you're not getting attacked 24/7, getting your energy fucking like harvested off of you like a battery, like a farm animal, which is ultimately kind of what's going on. It's like a psychic farming, and there's like rules to it. I mean, it's like nothing is happening by accident. Again, it's part of this perfect process. But once you become awake to it, you realize that it's powerless over you. It's like you are the one giving it power and authority. You're the one allowing your energy to be taken from you. You're the one that's doing it, and you are just getting caught up in the effects versus being in the world and realm of cause. And so that's part of the energy game, though, where it's just like you can start to then feel rewarded then too by using your mind and your consciousness more constructively, and like wishing somebody well, for example. Maybe you come across somebody in a state of mind that's like, you've been there and it sucks. It's like, when I was dealing with the legal system, I was on paper, on probation, on fucking going to these classes, going in and out of jail, going to house arrest shit, going to these probation meetings and house arrest meetings, and all of this, paying all this fucking money. And it's like, I understand through personal experience that fucking blows. And try to encourage people to get off paper, to start making a change on some level, to let that identity of being a criminal go, to being a drug addict as a identity thing, letting that go, because that's not who you are. That might be the situations that you're finding yourself in, but that doesn't mean that that's where you need to stay. Where you make a change is now, and just choose that you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to let that go, and that's the first step in doing anything, is just making the decision, and continuously making that decision in the here and now. Choosing love instead of fear is all we're ever doing. But in that, when you choose fear, you feel a correspondence as a drain of energy. And so it's part of like navigating your inner guidance system to be like, okay, well, when I chose fear, I got drained of energy. Something benefited from like taking it from me, because I allowed it by my own lack of self-control. And so it's like, well, I can choose and be more deliberate in the ways that I spend my energy. And instead of looking at it as spending, look at how I invest my energy. How do I invest my time, my attention, my energy to manifest a state of heaven for the other person in the here and now? That's one way to look at that goal. Another is to just be conscious, in the here and now. What's being done to you that's vying for your attention, and are you going to have a corresponding mental attitude that results in a drain of energy or a surplus of energy? And how to start getting a surplus is to start imagining more loving situations. So maybe you found out somebody is like got diagnosed with some terminal fucking thing. Well, instead of sitting there accepting that they were like they got a long road ahead of them, start imagining health, that a miracle situation will just happen to them, that they'll be fine, that they'll be strong, that whatever they're going through is part of a perfect process to awaken them to higher states of consciousness, that they've already been through the worst, whatever you're led to think and demonstrate. Because it's all about getting to a point of demonstration. Because as you start to actually wish somebody well, imagine for them to be in a state of being, they're demonstrating a state of being cursed. We'll start imagining them as who they actually are, as being one with and connected with their creator, that just the same as you, but that connection might be under a lot of programming and kind of laying dormant, but it's still there. And the more that you recognize that in another, the more you recognize it in yourself as well. And you feel a surplus of energy. Gratitude is a way to start to feel a surplus of energy, to be and like again with gratitude, like the world has a definition of what gratitude is. Gratitude is when you're thankful that you receive something. Well, then by that same pendulum, then there's a fear of loss that can be that can correspond to that. And so, what I feel like gratitude actually is just a knowingness that there's a mental correspondence, and as you realize that things are happening perfectly, that everything's being done to you, the gratitude is who you are underneath all this matrix slave-minded programming. It's like you don't have to be grateful. You are grateful. That's part of your nature. That's already inherently who you are. And the only thing that's like preventing you from being more grateful is the mental story that says, no, you're not grateful. You got nothing to be grateful for. And then there's the fucking mental story that if you believe that, you probably feel a correspondence of an energy drain. And so then that's not true. And so that's another part of like playing the energy game, is you start to realize what's true, what at least resonates or has an alignment that's more in line with true. It doesn't say that's the only thing that's true, or that person needs to start to be put on a pedestal and worship because they got a niblet of truth from infinite intelligence. Because we all have that connection to infinite intelligence, and we can all be given access to these new ideas, which is what I feel like the simulation, the world, whatever, is starving for, is new ideas, fresh ways of looking at things. I think that's why social media is so popular. Because everybody can, whenever somebody says anything, they're demonstrating a thought, and then if it's outside of this parroted narrative box, then you have all these people that just want to add their take to it, and they can then kind of explore different ideas and stuff, even if they're attacking the ideas or whatever. It's like people really are into fresh perspective, fresh mindset, growing mindset. I'm really into that kind of stuff, at least, where people are demonstrating high levels of whatever. You have a high level of like your relationship with like the opposite sex. If like you're a man, it's like if you really have a good relationship with women, you're like strong at communicating with them, and like things seem to be functioning very very well. I'm curious of what where your mindset is with that, because part of like relationships is like how is that reflecting stuff that's going on within, and how can we build each other up, how can we drop a lot of this programming together and get to higher levels. That's part of this thing. And so anybody that's able to demonstrate it physically, there's a correspondence that I feel like is an important thing to get to the bottom of. Now I was talking to a guy, he's been what do you say, 20-something years of having his own business, and he started with his dad and stuff like that. I was like talking with him, and he was like, he told me, he's like, he's starting to get more money than he's ever gotten before. And there's times where he had employees and staff, and so when a lot of times when like I listen to other like people that are creating businesses and stuff like that, I don't know what a lot of money is to a lot of people, but like if your mindset is like as like an employee mindset where it's like, well, I $25 an hour is a lot of money to make hourly. It's like, yeah, but it's like a lot of times you'll like talk to like somebody who has a business. It's like, well, yeah, I'm paying $5,000 a day in labor and bills, and so it's like, what's a lot of money? To some people, I don't know. It's all subjective. But we were talking about it, and I asked him, I was like, so you're making a lot more money now than you have been? I was like, what was there a shift in your mindset, to kind of leveled you up in that, or how did that come to be? Well, he didn't seem to be aware, until I mentioned something like that to him, that yeah, there was a corresponding shift in mindset, and he elaborated it for me. He said it is like, where there's quality, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do a good job. I don't want to be just the cheap guy. I want to demonstrate, quality over just being the cheap guy. I want to do more elaborate jobs, more this, more that. And there's more, and kind of like wanting to put more love into something. And so it's like, oh, I can see how that opens you up then to being able to receive more. And, the way I communicate with anybody that's got a business is like, I think it's important for people, like individuals, to create things like that and create systems of value for others. And so, and I've noticed too, a lot of like milestones when it comes to like having a business is directly related to your own feelings of worthiness, feelings of like guilt and shame. Because believe it or not, it's like, and I've experienced this personally. When I was just only doing music, I didn't have the handyman business. I started the music licensing business over 10 years ago, and there was this weird kind of guilt that came from like actually doing something I enjoyed doing, versus a lot of the people around me were doing things that they didn't enjoy doing as far as like a career path goes. It's like, oh, you go to talk to an old buddy or whatever and be like, yeah, having some hard time, you got a little bit of a writer's block or something, and they're like, oh, it must be nice, I got an asshole boss that's making me work the weekends. It's like, well, what do you want me to do? I fucking quit then. No one's got a gun to your head making you do that. But there's like this weird kind of guilt that starts to happen, that this like, oh, I feel guilt. I actually enjoy doing this, and I kind of feel guilty, on some level. And so, all of that kind of shit is stuff that you have to let go of to hit that next milestone level. Because until you do, you're going to just continuously just be at this is what I'm reaping and sowing. This is what's being done to me. And by recognizing that more and more, so it's empowering to go, oh, this is being done to me. Okay, I can start to look at it more of as like a perfect process, taking the control off, by doing that, and then just trusting that God's bringing you the perfect everything. And that's like a trust issue, that's a faith issue, that's something to be working on in the present moment. But in doing that, you can also start to feel the energy within you start to be amplified, or not being drained all the time. So either one of those is a win for me. And it allows you to play the game, which is always going on now, more and more so in like fun. Like, it makes it more fun when you're not constantly just being like, oh, another drama-filled day filled with draining people that just want something from me, and they're dumping all their fucking trauma and fucking chaos onto me, trying to get at my energy. But again, those are the mental stories that are the actual cause of the problem, that are actually the energy vampiring is going on in the spiritual, and it's a trick, that it's going on physically, because by the time it's trickled down physically, you've already been, the trick has already been set, and so stop falling for it, and stop letting that control you and spin you out and everything else. But it's a process. So it's like, if you can do it just one time better today than you did it yesterday, over the course of however, eternity, you'll get better and better. So it's all happening cyclically. It's all happening in cycles because it's all being done to you by what you're thinking and believing right here and right now. And so that's when you make the shift. And so I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. And girls, sorry if I just focus on like, oh, hi guys, it's just, guys and girls, whatever, ladies, men, they, them, it's whatever. Appreciate you liking, sharing, subscribing. I think I'm a balance. It's like, appreciate you guys' spiritual support and your physical, financial support. Thank you for that. Until the next now, God bless.